I'll try to be as short as possible and just not bore you with the long details. But I'm just gonna share with everyone just my journey, my story, and where I am now. So I was born in a rural village in the deep KZN, where I was born to a family of 8. I was the 7th born. My mom and dad, they've never worked well. Not as long as I can remember, they were not working. So I wasn't born into a rich family or anything. But as I grew up, looking at the surroundings in my community, I felt so strongly that I wanted to be a doctor. Why did I want to be a doctor? I saw a need in my community, first in the community and in my family. In the community, to access medical health care was such a struggle. One had to travel, take about 2 buses to get to see a doctor alone. When you get there, you find at the hospital there's a shortage of doctors. You have to wait like almost the whole day just to see a doctor. So that kind of encouraged me to say, you know what, I want to come into the medical field. I also want to make a difference. And I also want my community to be proud, just to say, Guti, from these dusty villages, we also produced a doctor. So by the time I was in grade 7, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. When I went into grade 8, on my 13th birthday, my niece passed away on my birthday. That also kind of pushed me towards my goal or my dream, because I felt like, was there anything that the doctors could have done to save her life, But as I carried on and went to the medical field, I realized, they probably did everything they could have done. So, yes, so I was one of the lucky ones who I discovered when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. When I was older, I still wanted to be a doctor, that was the passion that I had. But having coming from a rural community, I had very little knowledge of what I needed to do, to get into medical school. What would medical school be like? What was the journey going to be like? I had seen other doctors, and then I had thought, it was just a walk in the park. It was all easy as that. So when I went to high school, I had to leave my community and go into another township in Durban, where I was going to further my high school studies, because I wanted to get a better education. Well, the truth is, the rural communities are still, left behind with in terms of the education system. So that's when 2006, I was in grade 8. 2010, which is the famous year when we hosted the football, the World Cup, I was in matric, and trust me, I didn't want to fail matric in 2010. You can always imagine what a painful reminder it would have been. So I worked really hard. Unfortunately for me, because of the choices we sometimes make as teenagers and lack of information and guidance, I found myself that I was pregnant. So this is where I am just about a few months into going to medical school. I had already applied. I'm about to write my final exams. Then I find out I'm pregnant. I'm like, okay, oh my gosh. So everything I dreamed of, everything I've worked hard for to get here, it now looks like it's coming to an end. But I had to go back, sit down with myself, have a discussion with Thandeka, have a self-introspection and say, Thandeka, you've worked hard so far all these years to get here. You've gathered all the information from your primary school years, from your high school, and now you're about to go into medical school. And then I find myself that I'm a teenager and I'm pregnant. What's going to happen from now on? Do I just give up and just succumb to the circumstances at this point and just forget about everything else, or do I have to rise above the situation? Having that conversation with myself, I then decided, you know what, I'm not going to give up, at least not now. I felt so disappointed in myself. I knew I had disappointed my family. I was head girl at school, so I disappointed my teachers, all the other schoolmates who looked up to me. But I told myself, I must use this chance, or this is the opportunity for me to actually work so hard that all these people I had disappointed now, one day they will be proud of me. I will be proud of myself. Then that is the one thing I told myself. So I wrote my final exams in matric, and come 2011, I had passed. I got my 6 distinctions, and I got accepted into medical school. I went to medical school. I'm already pregnant. You know, that was could have it at some point during that transition from high school to medical school. I really did feel discouraged. I felt like I can't do this. But every time I had to go back to the drawing board to say, this is point A where I was. And now I'm in the middle of getting to the finishing point. So let me not lose focus. Even though maybe some children were pointing at me, oh, look at her, she's pregnant and she's at school, you know. But I had to not lose focus, keep my eyes on the prize, keep my eyes on the bigger picture to say, look, when I was growing up, my background was against me. Like growing from a big family, everything seemed like it was against me. But I pushed, I came out from that situation, and now I'm here. I can't give up now. Like I had to encourage myself. I know it's very good to have people in the surroundings who also encourage you, but sometimes you get to a point where you look around and you feel like there's no one but yourself. And I think it's at that point where you really have to find your emotional strength, look deep inside you and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Whether it's with tears in my eyes, whether I'm just, taking one step at a time, but don't lose focus. So that is what I did. And then luckily for me, the one person who was in my circle, who was the support structure, was my mom. And she agreed to look after my baby while I continued my studies. And I'll forever be grateful to her for that, And she's the one person who inspired me even from a younger age. And even well at that point where it felt I disappointed her, but she was still there to support me. I had learned a lot from my mother growing up. Val was just asking who are the people that we look up to, who inspired us. For me, it was my mom. Well, I grew up in such a time in a family where I didn't have a TV to see all these other celebrity people and everyone. But right next to me, I discovered there was a lady who gave herself, who gave the best to others, just to make sure that our community was well taken care of. She was actually the Mother Teresa of our community. I admired her strength. I admired the wisdom. Most of the time, my dad was never around while she raised us, but she managed to raise, my brothers and sisters in a way that even when we are older, we are grateful for that. I admired how she would, when they say it takes a village to raise a child, that like even the other children from the community, she would mother them. So for me, her compassionate spirit is something I felt that I would need in my journey as becoming a doctor, because I was going to work with different people from different socioeconomic states, from different backgrounds, from different, family, all walks of life. So that is something that I got from her. So yes, she's the one person I looked up to. Medical school was not a walk in the park. Just like I mentioned earlier on, that, sometimes we have a purpose or we have a dream, but we don't actually, no one comes back to us and tells us, you're going to fail. You're going to lose friends. You're going to miss out on family gatherings because this is where you want to go. So for me, part of my journey studying towards my dream was I lost friends. I don't want to lie, because I had to, medical school doesn't require you to be an A student necessarily. It just needed to be a hard worker and just stay focused. So when some of my friends on weekends said, no, we're going to the beach or for a picnic, I was like, guys, I need to study, I need to stay. Until they're like, no, Thandeka is boring, Thandeka is this and that, Thandeka thinks she's better than herself. Oh, well, if they think I'm better than I don't know, than everyone else, maybe there's just something right that I was doing. And because I felt that what I was doing at that time was necessary for me, I had to lose some of the friends. You know, there were family gatherings where I couldn't attend. But, you know, I don't regret any of that because it helped me and it actually pushed me to work hard, because I did not want that we come after a weekend. Now it's Monday. I'm so stressed because there's assignments I did not finish. There's a module I did not cover. So for me, I knew that it was part of the journey. It was part of what was going to propel me towards my goal. So remember what I said, keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Don't lose focus. You know, but if you have a plan with your life and you know I'm moving from point A to point Z, if along the way there's someone who says, no, forget about point Z, you know, let's go in a different direction, but you'll see that that is not going to take me to where I wanted to. So I need to ignore what comes from the sides and just focus on the dream. But then if I was that young person who did not have a plan about my life, then anyone could have came and said, oh no, let's take a different direction, and I was going to follow them. And somebody else comes and say, take a different direction, and I was going to follow them. At the end of the 6 years, I might have not completed my degree, you know. So I think that was the one important thing for me. I had a plan, and I knew I had to stick to the plan, come rain, come sunshine. So, and what I learned, I think, from being a teenage mother in the pregnancy was that I know most of us say, oh no, it was a mistake, I didn't plan. Fine, some mistakes, even though you don't plan for them, but you're supposed to actually have an idea what's the choice I'm making now and the actions I'm going to take. These are the results I am going to these are the results I'm going to get out of this, you know. So I had to deal with the results at that point. I had to face it and then say, I was the one who started this, who made this choice. I had a boyfriend, obviously, and then now that I was pregnant. Now these are the results of my actions. I can't blame anyone but myself. But then let me not have a pity party for myself. Let me strive towards excellence. So I think as I'm about to, you know, towards the conclusion of my story, it's just to say, along the way, along the journey, there will be challenges, but you are the one first leader of yourself. And, you know, when we talk about courageous leadership, for me, I looked and say, I had to be the leader of my life. I had to, you know, find my mission. And just like in the quotes that Val read, where I said, I believe that everything that we need for the journey, we have it within ourselves. We just need to look inside and, you know, discover your purpose, discover that mission. Because you might not have a person who's going to be there every day to tap you on the back, to push you. You need to be that person. You need to push yourself. So all the challenges, all the odds that I had to, you know, go through, beats to overcome, from growing up, childhood, medical school, and until I qualified as a medical doctor, I realized that had it not been for believing in myself, had I not pushed myself, maybe I would have now looked back and then I would start blaming my mom, blame my friends. But in all honesty, the first person who makes the decision is Thandeka. I was the one who needed to push myself. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is my story. Currently, so I qualified in 2017 as a medical doctor, and I did my internship, I did my ComServe. I'm now a medical officer. I have a permanent post, but because I know that as we never stop learning, I'm still pursuing my studies, and I hope someday soon to specialize as a pediatrician because I love children. I love children. Also, outside of my medical career, because I'm passionate about community work, you know, uplifting others is something that I'm passionate about. So I don't have an NGO of my own, but then I decided, maybe because of the time when I was in medical school, I was still so busy and at work was busy. Let me partner with already existing NGOs. So that is how I partnered with the Thandeka Youth Empowering Foundation. It works across the provinces where we target mainly the rural communities, where we provide information about career guidance, health education. We bring the much needed information to the youth where they can't have access to, so we bring it to them. So that is what I do when I'm not busy in the hospital giving injections. That is what I do. We help them a lot, especially when they need to apply, going into varsity, because most of the time you don't even know which form to fill in, you know, to apply to get to which university. You don't know what are the requirements. So that is what we try to do as Thandeka Youth Empowering Foundation. And my work at Ngbobo Empire, which is another NPO that I work with, that one is the multimedia Afrocentric company. I'm a corporate affairs officer there, so I just manage the image of the company and just to make sure that everything, you know, that we believe in or our core standards, we maintain them. But all in all, I think the most important thing that I would like you girls and everyone else to take out from my life story is to know that it's possible. If you believe in yourself and don't lose focus, don't shift your eyes on the bigger picture. Do not know where you're going. It is possible. If you do encounter stumbling blocks, don't let them discourage you, but use those to step on them and, you know, reach up higher. And, you know, just like Nelson Mandela says, he says, after climbing the first hill, that you realize that there's actually more to climb. Be ready for that. You'd find, oh yes, I've overcome this, only to find it was just the beginning. There's still more that you still need to do. But don't let that discourage you. It is possible. As a female child, as a woman in Africa, in South Africa, you have the power. Even in sectors where maybe you are once told growing up, you know, it's for male, it's a male-dominated section. But we have the power inside of us. And remember, sometimes you just have to be your number one cheerleader and just push yourself, and it's doable. Thank you so much.